Maria woke before sunrise, as she did every day. The sky was a pale promise of light when she stretched her tired limbs and listened to the faint breathing of her younger brother on the threadbare mat beside her. Their small home was made of rusted tin sheets and cardboard patches. The walls shivered in the dawn breeze. Inside, it smelled of damp earth and long-cooked rice. Maria quietly pulled her thin blanket over her shoulders and slipped out into the dusty alley. She tiptoed past the hammock where her mother lay, coughing softly. Her mother's face was pale and drawn, but her eyes shone with love whenever Maria entered the room. Behind her, little Amina clutched a rag doll. Amina's eyes never left Maria. She was only 6, but she already carried the worry of the household. In her small heart, Ria knelt and pressed a soft kiss on her sister's forehead. "I'll be back soon," she whispered, though she knew the journey would be long. Every morning, Maria walked 2 miles to the community well. She carried an empty plastic jug, bent double under its weight when full. As she moved through the winding alleys, she greeted neighbors who asked about her mother's health. She offered a shy smile, even when she had no good news. Often the well was crowded, women with woven baskets on their heads, men returning. From early work at the construction sites, Maria stood in line patiently, gripping her jug's handle until her knuckles turned white. When it was her turn, she filled the jug and wiped her forehead. Today her hands shook slightly. She knew that every drop of water was precious for cooking, cleaning, and keeping her mother's fevered skin from cracking. On this morning, there was a small excitement in the air. A new medical van had arrived at the clinic at the edge of the neighborhood. Maria had heard whispers. The van brought free checkups, donated by some philanthropist. Healthcare in this slum was usually a matter of who you knew or how much you could bribe the local nurse. Maria gathered courage and carried her jug toward the clinic. She thought about her mother's persistent cough, how it rattled her chest like a drum. She wanted answers, but mostly she wanted help. When she reached the small courtyard, she saw a tall, dark-haired man standing beside the van. He wore a crisp, white shirt that looked too fine for these streets. His shoes gleamed even in the dust. He spoke in calm tones to the clinic's nurse, gesturing at the equipment being unloaded. Maria felt a strange flutter watching him. He moved with ease, as though he belonged on stages or boardrooms, not here among cracked walls and leaking roofs. "Next," called a volunteer. Maria felt her heart hammer. She had not planned to speak with this stranger. She stepped forward because she needed to know if they would treat her mother. The volunteer looked at her papers, then smiled. "Okay, come in." Inside the van, the nurse tested her mother's blood pressure. Maria's palms were damp as she sat on the small plastic chair. She answered questions: name, age, symptoms. She told the nurse about the cough, the fevers, the nights when her mother couldn't breathe. The nurse nodded sympathetically and scribbled notes. Then he said, "The test shows she needs a stronger medicine. We have a 6-week course. It is expensive, but the donor has generously agreed to cover treatment for the sickest patients here." Maria felt a spark of hope and relief. "Will she qualify?" she asked, her voice soft. The nurse glanced at the nurse's assistant, who shrugged. "We can enroll her," he said. "Sign here." As Maria signed her name, she noticed the man in the white shirt watching from outside the window. He smiled and gave her a small nod. Maria turned away, embarrassed by the attention. She hurried out with her mother's prescription in hand. For days afterward, Maria saw him again. Every time she passed the clinic, he was there, checking on patients. Handing out cards that said compliments of Armin Malik Foundation. He called him Armin Malik. He was young for a billionaire only, 32. He had built his fortune in a few short years by creating a popular learning app for children. Now he invested his money in causes quietly, without seeking headlines. One afternoon, Maria found him sitting on a low wall near the clinic. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, and he looked more relaxed. He held a small camera and took pictures of children playing in a dusty lot behind the clinic. Maria paused, clutching her mother's medicine bag. He looked up. "Hello?" he said gently. "How is your mother?" Maria swallowed. "Better," she replied. "The medicine is helping." Armand smiled. I'm glad. It makes me happy too. See her improving? He turned the camera toward her. May I take a photo? Maria's cheeks warmed. She shook her head. Oh, thank you. He shrugged and lowered the camera. All right. I just like to remember faces, I guess. Tone was friendly, not patronizing. Maria realized he was lonely too. She touched the bag of pills. I want to thank you. I don't know how to repay you. Armand stood and walked closer. You don't have to, he said. I just want to help. He searched her face. What is your name? Maria? Maria. He repeated softly. You have a brave heart. Maria felt tears prick her eyes. I do this for my mother and my sister. They are all I have. Armand nodded, as though he understood something deep. He went back to his camera and took one quick picture of Maria and her mother together. The flash was soft, but in the bright sunlight it forced her to squint. Then he tucked the camera away. Your family is brave, he said, and beautiful. Maria clutched her medicine bag and turned to leave, nearly stumbled over a loose brick, and Armand reached out, steadying her wrist. His fingers were warm. She pulled free and hurried away, her heart pounding that night. In the dim glow of a single bulb, Maria sat at the small kitchen table. Her mother's breathing was steady in the next room. Her younger brother snored quietly. Little Amina held the ragdoll clothes. Maria took out the photo from her pocket, the one Armand had slipped her before she left. He had written a single word on the back, courage. Maria traced the letters with her thumb. She wondered what kind of man would take time to help strangers in a place like this. She thought of the miles between her world and his of glass. Towers and expensive cars, and the endless sea of people who needed help but never got it. She felt both grateful and restless. In the weeks that followed, Maria continued her daily routine, fetching water, caring for her mother, walking to the clinic for checkups. Armand's foundation paid for medicines and tests. He arranged for house visits when her mother could not travel. Maria saw him often, though always at a careful distance. He introduced her mother to other patients who had fought similar illnesses. He arranged for tutors to help Maria with reading and writing, and sometimes he brought food supplies from a local market. He never asked for praise. He never lingered long. Maria's life was changing, but she felt as if she were watching from outside her body. Her neighborhood still smelled of dust and cooking smoke. The tin walls still rattled in the wind. But inside her small home, hope flickered like a candle. Her mother laughed more often. Her cough faded. Amina played in the corner, singing nonsense songs. Maria's brother spoke of becoming a mechanic, repairing scooters for money. They all dared to dream. When Maria delivered water that morning, she paused by the clinic's wall and looked at the window where Armand sometimes stood. She thought of speaking to him again, of asking questions about his life, but fear held her back. She worried he might think her ungrateful if she asked too much. She worried that he would leave as suddenly as he had come. But the day was young, and the sun rose higher in the sky. Maria lifted her jug and began the walk home. Her mind stirred with possibilities. She had never known such kindness. She had never dreamed that someone so powerful would care for her family. Yet here he was, offering more than money. He was offering friendship. Maria's heart thrummed. She did not know what would come next, but she carried the word courage in her pocket, along with the soft hope that her family might find a new beginning, guided by a stranger's generosity. And in that fragile morning light, Maria felt that her world could be different if only she dared to believe in possibilities beyond the gray walls of her home. Maria sat by her mother's bedside, watching the shallow rise and fall of her chest. The 6-week medicine course was hardly 2 days old, but already the pills left her mother dizzy and weak. Maria's heart ached each time her mother asked for water or food. The medicine was supposed to heal her, but for now it only reminded Maria how fragile life could be. Her father had died when she was a baby, and her mother had raised her alone. Now, as she watched the woman struggle, Maria felt a fierce protectiveness rise inside her. That evening, Maria waited until her siblings slept before she opened the small notebook where she kept all her family's expenses. Each page was a map of struggle. Written in pencil were the costs of rice, of water jugs, of charcoal for cooking. The medicine fees were in red ink, marked with little crosses next to each number like warning signs. When she added everything up, the total was far more than she could ever earn. Even if she worked every day, from dawn until dusk, selling sweets on the roadside, she might cover only 1 week of medicine. She pressed her forehead to the cool surface of the table. She did not know what to do. Her brother needed new shoes for school. Amina needed new clothes before the monsoon rains. Their home leaked whenever it rained, and last year the roof had caved in. Maria thought of borrowing money from the local lender, but the interest was cruel. She had seen families lose their homes for a few rupees. She could not risk that. Would rather beg on the street than see her mother lose the small shelter she had. None of this seemed fair. Maria had always believed that good things happened to good people. She had helped neighbors with chores, shared food when she could, and studied by the dim bulb at night. She had dreamed of a day when her mother would be healthy again, when her siblings would laugh without worry. But dreams felt distant now, like clouds on the horizon. One humid afternoon, Maria stood in the marketplace, trying to sell sugar candies. From a worn basket, sweat dripped down her face as she called out to passers-by. Most ignored her. Their faces, strained with their own troubles, did not give her a second glance. She sat down on a low crate and closed her eyes. She had nothing left to offer. The basket was empty. She had eaten the last candies. Her coins barely filled her palm. She thought of home, of the medicine she could not buy, and bitterness rose like a storm in her chest. Tears welled in her eyes. She picked up her coins and let them fall back into her purse. Then she stood and walked without direction. The busy streets blurred around her. The faces of people moving fast, with purpose, brought fresh sorrow. It hated that she had no money, no power to change her family's fate, and she hated even more the shame of admitting defeat. As dusk settled, Maria found herself at the clinic again. The white van was gone, but the logo of the Arman Malik Foundation still adorned the walls. A notice on the door thanked donors for their help and invited patients to request further support. Maria hesitated. She had received help once, but she had not asked for a second favor. She felt unworthy, yet the medicine ran out in 2 days. She could not watch her mother suffer again. She opened the door and walked into the empty courtyard. Dust motes danced in the fading sun. Maria approached the small reception desk and cleared her throat. The volunteer looked up. "Yes," she asked. I need help again," Maria said. "My mother's medicine ran out. We need more, or she will get worse." The volunteer's face softened. "I'm sorry. The program covers only 6 weeks per patient." She flipped through papers. "Let me see." She frowned. There's no more funding for her case right now. Maria felt her legs weaken. She sank into a plastic chair. The volunteer offered her water and a gentle smile. "I wish I could help more, but that is the rule." Maria's eyes filled with tears. "Please," she whispered. "Please, she's all I have." The volunteer shook her head. "I'm sorry, Maria." She did not know the depth of Maria's despair. She did not know that Maria had already borrowed from neighbors. She did not know that there was nowhere else to turn. Maria left the clinic in a daze. She held her empty purse in one hand and her borrowed book bag in the other. The gravel path under her feet seemed to swallow her up. She wanted to scream, to cry out, but she had no voice. Only one thought swirled in her mind. She must try something more. That night, as the family huddled on their mats, Maria made her decision. She could no longer watch her mother fade away. She remembered the calm eyes of Arman Malik, how he worked quietly, without fans or speeches. She recalled his kindness in the dusty courtyard, his gentle words, and the word he had written, courage. She had worn it like armor in her heart. Now she needed real courage. She waited until the house was silent and her mother's breathing was steady. She slipped outside and walked the dark paths to the main road. Silver above her, She followed the streetlights until she reached the guard gate of a tall building. She knew it was Armin Malek's residence because of the marble pillars and the golden letters at the entrance. Her heart pounded. Her legs trembled. What would she say? How could she stand before a billionaire and ask for more help when he had already given so much? She almost turned back. Pride fought with desperation. But pride would not save her mother. She pressed the buzzer. The guard peered at her through a small window. Maria held her breath. The guard's eyes widened. "What are you doing here?" "Child?" he asked. I need to see Mr. Malek," she stammered. "It's important." The guard hesitated. "You're not invited." "Please?" Maria said, her voice trembling. "My mother. She needs medicine. She's going to die without it." The guard looked at her ragged clothes, the dirt on her hands. He frowned and tapped a button. "Wait here." Maria stood on the marble step, feeling out of place. Gates swung open, and a second guard ushered her into a softly lit foyer. Plush carpets muffled her footsteps. Paintings hung on the walls of grand rooms. She felt like an intruder on another planet. A butler appeared and led her through corridors to a private study. Armin Malek sat behind a large desk, reading papers. He looked up when she entered. His eyes widened in surprise. "Maria?" he said, as if he could not believe his own ears. She swallowed. "I'm sorry to come here," she said, "but my mother's medicine has ended. I tried to ask at the clinic and they have no more funds. She will get worse. I don't know what else to do." Armin watched her without interrupting. His expression softened. "You shouldn't come here alone," he said quietly. "It's not safe." Maria closed her eyes. She forced the words out. "I need more help. I have nothing, please. Please be my daddy." She opened her eyes. Armin leaned back. The room was silent for a heartbeat, then for a full minute. Maria thought he would laugh or send her away, but he did neither. He looked at the wide windows, at the framed degrees on the wall, then back at her tear-streaked face. "Wait. No one has ever asked me that," he said at last, his voice low. "Why me?" Maria's throat tightened. "I have no father," she said. "My mother raised us alone. I wanted someone to guide us, to protect us. I thought of you because you have helped us once. You showed my mother kindness. You made her feel safe. I need more than money. I need a father." Armin sat forward and clasped his hands. He studied her, as though seeing her for the first time. Maria held her breath. She felt both foolish and powerful. She had dared to ask the impossible. Armin closed his eyes and exhaled. When he opened them, they glowed with a mixture of surprise and something deeper, an echo of longing. He stood and crossed to her. "I will do more," he said softly. "I will be your father figure. I'll cover your mother's treatment and more. But I ask you to come back home with me. Stay there. Let me help you as a family." Maria felt tears spill. She nodded, unable to speak. Relief and wonder washed through her like rain. She had asked for a miracle and he had answered. As they walked out together under the moonlit sky, Maria felt the weight of the world lift just a little. She did not know what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time, she believed she was not alone. The road ahead was unknown, but she had taken the first step, and someone would walk it beside her. Maria and Armin stepped out into the early morning light. The large gate closed behind them with a soft click. Maria still felt the marble beneath her worn sandals. But now she walked on the narrow dirt path that led back to her old neighborhood. Armin walked beside her, tall and sure, carrying a small bag of medicines. Maria studied his profile. He wore a gentle expression, but her mind was a swirl of worry. She had asked him to become her father. She wondered what everyone else would think. By the time they reached the edge of the slum, news had begun to spread. A young man in a smart suit with a teenage girl at his side was enough to spark comments. People paused in their chores to stare. Some whispered, others pointed. Few shouted greetings, but most watched in silence. Maria's cheeks burned with embarrassment. She glanced at Armin. His calm presence steadied her. Before they reached Maria's home, Armand raised his hand. "Let's pause here," he said in a soft voice. He turned to her. "I want to say something." Maria nodded. Round them, scraps of paper fluttered in the breeze, newspapers, leaflets, and torn announcements about the free clinic. Someone had painted her story on a wall. "Poor girl asks young billionaire to be her daddy," in large letters. Bits of broken plastic hung as signs. Armand stepped closer and took her hand. "You did something brave. Spoke up when your family needed help. That is not shameful." He looked at the scrawled words on the wall. "Some will judge without knowing you, but we will face them together." Maria swallowed hard. She still felt insecure. "What if people think I'm using you?" she asked, her voice trembling. "What if they say I did this for money, or for shows?" Armand smiled gently. "Let them say what they will. Your heart is true. You came to me because you had no one else. I promised to help you and your family, and that promise is real." He squeezed her hand. "We both know the truth. That should be enough." They walked on. Soon the narrow lane opened into a small clearing where children played with a tattered football. Maria's brother, Karim, sat on a low wall, watching. When he saw them, he jumped up. "Maria, you came back," he shouted. He ran and hugged her knees. Maria knelt and held him tight. Armand stood back, watching. He smiled when Amina, Maria's little sister, toddled over, clutching her doll. Their mother sat on the low wooden stool outside their home. She looked fragile but hopeful. When she saw Armand, she rose unsteadily. He kneeled before her. "Good morning, Mrs. Khan," he said politely. "How are you feeling today?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I feel better, Mr. Malik. Thank you for saving my life." Her voice cracked. "I don't know how to thank you." Armand helped her sit back. "The medicine is working because you are strong," he said. He placed the small bag of prescriptions and vitamins on the table. Maria watched her mother's grateful face and remembered the nights of fear. She breathed more easily. But the comfort lasted only a moment. A group of neighbors gathered. Some offered greetings. Others stared. A local reporter holding a small camera stepped forward. "Mr. Malik," he called, "can you comment on these rumors? Is this girl really your daughter now?" Armand glanced at Maria, then back at the reporter. He had expected questions, but not the glare of reporters in this poor lane. "I'm not her biological father," he said calmly, "but I am helping her family because they needed someone to care." He smiled at Maria's mother. "That is all I owe them." The reporter clicked his camera. "People are saying you're exploiting her story to improve your public image. What do you say to that?" Maria's heart thumped. She wanted to speak for her mother and siblings. She wanted to stand tall, but fear held her tongue. Armand answered. Before she could think, "I don't need publicity. My help is private. If people misunderstand, that is their choice." He turned to Maria. "Would you like to go inside?" She nodded and walked past the reporters. Armand stayed a moment, longer, closing his eyes as if he breathed in strength. Then he followed her. Maria went inside the small tin house. She sat on the floor, and her mother settled beside her. Mina climbed onto her lap. Karim remained outside, looking in through the doorway. Inside, the house felt small and silent. Maria's mother touched her face. "Are you all right, Mai?" "Child?" she asked softly. Maria forced a smile. "Yes, mother. I'm fine." But her mind raced. She had seen the cameras, the whispers. She had felt the weight of gossip. She had heard people ask, "Why would a billionaire care?" She had heard others say, "She's just a pawn in his schemes." That night, she lay awake on the thin mat. She listened to her mother's stable breathing. She thought of Armand, helping without asking for thanks. She thought of his quiet eyes watching her family. She thought of the world beyond these walls, tall buildings, spotless offices, big decisions made behind closed doors. She knew he was lonely too, that his childhood had no guiding hand. She had offered him a chance to be father. He had taken it. Now she worried that the world would tear it all apart. The next morning, Maria returned to school. The small classroom buzzed with rumors. Some girls whispered, Did you see? She's the millionaire's daughter now." Boys hooted and made mocking jokes. Maria sat at her desk, her notebook open. She could not concentrate. The teacher, Miss Safia, noticed her distraction. After class, Miss Safia called her aside. "Is everything all right, Maria?" she asked kindly. Maria looked down. "People are saying things," she said softly. "They think I'm using Mr. Malik. They think I'm lying." Miss Safia placed a hand on her shoulder. "He helped your mother when you asked," she said gently. "That takes courage." "You did not do anything wrong?" She lowered her voice. "Sometimes others judge because they fear what they don't understand." Maria nodded, but tears came to her eyes. She thanked the teacher and hurried out. Outside, she saw a cluster of students waiting near the gate. They parted as she approached. A boy called after her, "Hey, rich girl, save some charity for the rest of us." Others laughed. Maria kept her eyes forward and walked quickly away. She found a quiet bench under a mango tree. She took the photo Armand had given her on her first visit, the two of them smiling shyly. He had written courage on the back. She traced the letters with her finger. She closed her eyes and tried to feel brave. The word glowed in her mind, a small flame in the wind. That afternoon, Armand invited Maria to visit his foundation's new office. The building was small but bright. Inside, volunteers worked at computers, taking calls and planning outreach. Maria watched as they spoke respectfully, listened to clients, and signed forms. She met the program manager, Ms. Ahmed, who smiled warmly at her. "We're so glad you're here," Ms. Ahmed said. "Your voice matters. We want to hear your ideas for helping families like yours." Maria felt a surprise. They wanted her opinion. They saw her not as a needy child, but as a partner. She told them about the long lines at the clinic, the lack of medicine for the less serious cases, the need for home visits. The volunteers listened and took notes. Maria felt her confidence return. She realized that Armand's help was more than money. It was respect. Later, Armand appeared and asked her to join him in his private office. The walls were lined with books. A large window looked out onto the city. Maria sat in a leather chair, feeling small but determined. Armand poured them both a cup of tea. He settled into his own chair. "You spoke well today," he said. "Proud of you," Maria smiled. "Thank you," she said. They listened. She paused. "I'm still scared of what people say about us." Armand set his tea down. "I know. Real family members stand by each other. If others call us names, we won't listen. We know the truth." He leaned forward. "You are my daughter now, in every way that matters." Maria felt tears. She reached out and he took her hand. In that moment, she believed him. She believed that family was not only blood, but trust and love. She believed that her family, her mother, her siblings, and Armand would face the world. Together, the doubt and whispers might swirl like storms, but they would stand firm like the roots of a strong tree. And in her heart, Maria felt that no matter what happened, she was not alone. ChatGPT said. Maria woke before dawn and quietly left the small guest room in Armand's house. The halls were still and silent, lit only by a few soft lights. She paused at the window and looked out over the quiet street. It was strange to see. Her old neighborhood far away, hidden by city lights and tall buildings. Here, everything felt different. Clean floors, fresh paint, and a calm that reached even the corners. She touched the wooden sill and felt a mix of excitement and fear. Today would be her first day of real lessons with Armand. In the kitchen, she found Armand already sipping tea at the long table. He smiled when he saw her. "Good morning," he said. "Ready for today?" Maria nodded, though her stomach fluttered. "Yes, I want to learn." He poured her a cup of tea and handed her a plate of fruit and toast. "We start slowly," he said. "Life skills first." After breakfast, they went to a small library room lined with books. Armand pulled out a simple notebook and a pen, sat across from her. "Let's begin with budgeting," he said. "Money is just a tool. It can help you or hurt you depending on how you use it." Maria listened as he spoke in calm, clear sentences. He drew columns on the page: income, expenses, savings. He explained how each day she could track the small coins she earned selling candies or by tutoring younger children. He showed her how even a small amount saved each day would grow over weeks and months. Maria watched the lines appear on the page and imagined numbers filling the rows. She saw how she could plan for her family's needs without feeling helpless. Next, Armand taught her basic computer skills. They sat side by side at a laptop, showed her how to type, how to open files, and how to send an email. His fingers moved slowly on the keyboard as he guided her hands. Maria typed her name for the first time on the screen. She giggled when the letters appeared exactly where she touched. Armand's proud smile warmed her heart. After the lesson, they took a break. Armand led her to a rooftop garden on the building's terrace. Rows of pots bloomed with flowers and vegetables. The city stretched below like a vast board game. Handed her a small watering can. Gardening is simple but powerful, he said. It teaches patience and care. Maria knelt by a row of tomato plants. She watered them gently, careful not to splash the soil. She touched the rough leaves and imagined how these plants would feed families in the slum someday. She felt connected to the earth, to the food that sustained her own family. Armand stood behind her, watching. You have a gentle touch, he said softly. In the afternoon, Armand invited Maria to join a small group of young volunteers at his foundation office. They were planning a workshop for local girls on sewing and crafts. Inside a bright meeting room, Maria watched the volunteers set out colorful fabrics and threads. Armand introduced her as his daughter. She has ideas, he said. Let's hear them. The women turned to her with curious smiles. Maria's hand shook as she spoke. We could teach them to make simple bags, she said. And they could sell them in the market. It would help them earn small money. The volunteers nodded and took notes. Ms. Ahmed, the program manager, patted her shoulder. That's brilliant, she said. You know your community best, Maria felt. A rush of pride. She realized that her voice mattered here. She saw hope grow in the eyes of the women as they imagined selling their crafts. Armand watched her, a gentle smile on his face. He had given her more than lessons, he had given her a platform. Walk back to the house. They rode in Armand's quiet electric car. Maria stared out the window at the crowded streets below. She thought of her old life, the heat, the noise, the struggle, and wondered how she would mix these two worlds inside her heart. Armand glanced at her. How do you feel? He asked. She sighed. I feel bright. I feel like there is more I can do. She looked at him. Thank you. He nodded. You're doing the work. I provide tools. You use them with heart. That evening, Maria invited her mother and siblings to spend the night at Armand's house. They gathered in the living room, a soft carpet under their feet. Her mother smiled in wonder at the couches, the lamps, the framed photos on the walls. Kareem touched a crystal vase as though it might break. Mina giggled at the fluffy pillows. Armand brought out snacks, fresh fruit, sandwiches, and cold milk. He poured everyone juice. Maria's mother looked at her daughter with wide eyes. How did this happen? She whispered. Maria sat beside her. I asked him to be my father. She said softly. He said yes. Her mother reached for Armand's hand. Thank you, she said. You have given us life. Armand shook his head. You gave me family, he said. Had nothing like this before. The children ate and laughed. Maria watched them. She felt joy as bright as sunlight. She remembered the days of fear and sickness, the nights of worry. Now here in this safe space, they could simply be children. After the children went to bed in one of the spare rooms, Armand and Maria sat on the rooftop garden again. The moon shone above them. The city lights glowed like stars fallen to earth. Maria breathed in the cool air. Do you miss home? Armand asked. She nodded. Sometimes, she said. But this is becoming home too. He smiled. You have two homes now. It's one in your heart and one in this house. Maria looked at the plants beside her. I want to bring gardening back to my old neighborhood, she said. I want to plant seeds in empty lots so families can grow their own vegetables. Armand's eyes brightened. That's a wonderful idea. We can work on that together. They talked late into the night about gardens, workshops, budgets, and dreams. Maria felt something bloom inside. Her confidence matched with purpose. She knew that life would bring challenges, but she also knew she had the tools to face them. And she had someone to walk beside her. The next morning, Armand surprised her with an invitation. A trip to her old neighborhood to host the first gardening workshop. Maria's heart leaped. She wore her best dress and carried small gardening tools in a new bag. As they drove to the slum, she practiced what she would say to her neighbors. When they arrived, a small crowd had gathered by an empty lot. Children and women watched curiously as Armand set up pots and soil. Maria took her place at the front. She introduced the project and showed the simple steps. The volunteers and some eager neighbors dug holes, planted seeds, and watered the soil. Maria guided them, showing how to space the plants and care for them. Armand joined in, kneeling beside a young girl to show her how to press the soil gently. By sunset, the dusty lot had transformed. Rows of green shoots peeked above the earth. Neighbors clapped and cheered. Maria's mother stood with the other mothers, pride shining in her eyes. Maria felt tears prick her cheeks. She approached Armand and hugged him. "Look what we did," she whispered. He hugged her back. "Look what you led," he said. "Have changed lives today." Maria looked at the smiling faces around her. She saw hope in their eyes, and she knew that this was only the beginning. Together they would build more gardens, teach more skills, and show that kindness could grow stronger than any hardship. In that moment, she believed in the power of dreams, in the strength of family, and in the courage that had brought her here. And she knew that no matter what came next, she would face it with heart, with purpose, and with Armand by her side. The morning sun rose gentle and bright as Maria walked down the quiet corridor toward the study she now called her own. It was her final year of high school, and today was the day of the big exam that would decide if she could go to university. Her heart fluttered like a bird, but she felt steady. She carried a small notebook filled with her notes, math formulas, essays on social justice, ideas for the community garden. She paused at the open door and remembered how far she had come. Just a year ago, she could not have dreamed of this moment. Armand appeared at the study threshold, holding 2 glasses of juice. He smiled and handed one to her. "You ready?" he said, his voice warm. "Breathe and do your best." Maria took a sip and nodded. She felt his steady presence like a shield. "Thank you," she whispered. "For everything." He squeezed her shoulder. "This is your work and your heart. I only gave you tools." She set the glass down and gathered her papers. As she left, she saw her mother and siblings waiting by the front door. Her mother held Amina's hand, and Kareem clutched a small bouquet of wildflowers he had picked from the rooftop garden. They smiled through tears. Maria knelt and hugged them. "I'll come back soon," she said. "I'll make you proud." Her mother pressed her hands into Maria's cheeks. "You already make us proud," she said. "Just be yourself." Maria waved and stepped into the car with Armand. The drive to the exam center passed in a calm hush. She reviewed formulas softly under her breath. Armand reached over and gently covered her hand. No words were needed. After the exam, Maria emerged into the warm afternoon light. A group of classmates cheered when they saw her. She had answered every question she knew. She felt relieved. Armand guided her home, but her thoughts were on the future. Could she really leave the slum behind and walk the halls of a university? Would she find friends who understood her? The question swirled, but she knew one thing for sure. She had the courage to try. Weeks passed like pages turning in a book. Maria filled her days with study and community work. She helped mentor younger children at the Foundation's after-school program. She and Armand prepared for the launch of their new project, a family counseling center in the slum, where neighbors could talk about their worries and learn to support each other. They planned a small celebration for the center's opening, inviting families, volunteers, and local leaders. On the evening of the event, lanterns glowed across the courtyard. A simple banner read "Hope and Home. Family Counseling Center." The walls were painted in soft blues and yellows colors chosen by neighborhood children. Tables held tea, biscuits, and fresh fruit. Families arrived, curious and proud. Maria stood at the entrance, greeting guests with a shy smile. Her mother and siblings sat on a low bench, dressed in their best clothes. Armand stood beside her, holding her hand. A local teacher stepped forward to speak. He spoke of Maria's courage, of Armand's kindness, and of how the project would bring healing to many homes. When he finished, the crowd applauded. Maria felt tears on her cheeks. She took the microphone, her heart pounding. The hush deepened. "I am Maria," she began, her voice soft but clear. "A year ago, my family had no help. My mother was very sick, and I did not know what to do. Malik came, healed my mother's body, but he also healed our hearts, showed me that I could help others too." She paused and glanced at Armand, who nodded in encouragement. "This center is for you, our neighbors, our friends, our family. Here, you can speak, and we will listen. You can learn, and we will teach. And you can heal, and we will support." She smiled and set down the microphone. The guests cheered and came forward to congratulate her. Later, as the lanterns burned low, Armand and Maria walked through the empty courtyard. She pointed to the painted walls. "Look at their colors," she said. "They made these flowers and stars." He smiled. "They did beautiful work," he said. "Just like you." Maria looked up at him. "I could not have done any of this without you," she said. "You believed in me when I had nothing." Armand stopped and faced her. "You believed in yourself," he said. "You chose to ask for help, to learn, to lead. That took courage." Maria felt her chest swell with hope. "What will happen next?" she asked. He took her hand. "Next, you go to university," he said. "You study social work and community development.
Oh.
Then you help even more people." He paused. "We'll always be here, but I also want you to grow on your own. I want you to find your own strength." Maria nodded. She felt both joy and a gentle sadness. She would miss these days of learning side by side with him, but she knew he was right. She needed to fly. The months passed and Maria received her acceptance letter to the city university. She packed her small suitcase with clothes, notebooks, and a few precious items, her courage photo, a ribbon from Amina's doll, and a small bag of seeds from the garden. Her mother hugged her fiercely. Kareem held back tears. Amina placed a gentle kiss on Maria's cheek. Armand drove her to the bustling campus. He walked her to the registration desk and helped her fill out forms. When they finished, Maria turned. To him, "Thank you," she said, "for everything." He knelt and looked into her eyes. "Go change the world," he said. "And remember, you are never alone." Maria hugged him. She felt his arms strong around her, and she let go and joined a group of new students, her notebook in hand. She walked into the university building, heart full of dreams. Back in the slum, Armin oversaw the foundation's new scholarship program. He arranged for children like Maria to receive support for education, healthcare, and mentorship. He visited often to check on the garden, the counseling center, and new workshops. He sometimes brought Maria's family small gifts, fresh clothes, books, or seeds for the next planting season. 1 year later, they held a celebration for the garden's first harvest. The rooftop plots overflowed with tomatoes, beans, and flowers. Neighbors gathered to pick the produce and share a meal. A banner read "Harvest of Hope." Maria returned from university on summer break. She stood at the edge of the terrace, smiling as children made colorful bouquets from marigolds and basil. She saw Armand beside her, his face bright with pride. As they walked through the greenery, she reflected on the journey. A poor girl had dared to ask a young billionaire to be her father. She had begged for help to save her mother. She had risked shame for a chance at a better life. And in the end, she had found family, purpose, and hope. She had learned that courage could grow like a seed, small, fragile at first, but strong enough to break through concrete and bloom. Armand paused by a row of tomato plants and picked one. He handed it to Maria. "For you," he said. It and bit into its sweet flesh. The juice dripped down her chin. She laughed. "It tastes like victory," she said. He laughed too. "It tastes like family," he said. Maria looked up at him. "Thank you for being my daddy," she said. Simply, He put his arm around her and guided her down the row. "Thank you for letting me," he said. They walked together into the golden afternoon light, side by side, ready to face whatever new dreams awaited them. And as they moved among the leaves and blossoms, Maria knew that her story was only beginning, that with courage, love, and kindness, even the smallest voice could change the world.